Joining us now for more from Istanbul is Metin Gurcan. He's a security analyst and columnist with Al Monitor's Turkey Pulse. With us here in the studio is Doga Eralp. He is a professor and lecturer at American University. From Paris, Alexis Poulin is a co-founder of Le Monde Moderne, and from London, Nicolai Due-Gundersen is a political analyst from Kingston University in London. Thanks to all of you for joining us. Let's start right here in the studio with Doga. And Doga, President Erdogan of Turkey, he's been slowly ingratiating himself with the Europeans, despite their criticism of his human rights policies. We just had a meeting in Ankara between senior Turkish officials and European officials. Both sides came out very positive, very optimistic. How would you characterize relations right now?
Well, over the past 5 years or so, Turkey and EU has really been diverging on their political perspectives into the future. There are quite a few reasons for that. European Union was not as willing to accept Turkey's future in the European Union, and also we need to take into consideration the authoritarian turn Turkish politics had taken over the years. Add to that the growing political pressure on Kurdish politicians, along with democracy activists and journalists, along with Selahattin Demirtas, who was the former co-chairman of the Kurdish political party HDP, who is still in jail despite a European Court of Human Rights order to be released. Turkey still wants to improve its relations with European Union, but on its own terms, whereas European Union is still pushing Turkey to, although knowing that Turkey will not necessarily be giving up on its own goals and ambitions, do a little bit more on the democracy and human rights side.
Well, Doga, tell me, given those conditions in Turkey that you've just described, is membership of the European Union at this stage a non-starter?
It is, I believe, off the table, and both sides know that. And Ankara still actually is okay with voicing its support and its determination to become an EU member, yet quite falls short of bringing up the necessary steps, especially in the political arena, to be really considered eligible for EU membership.
All right, let's go to Paris. Let's get the view from Alexis Poulin. Alexis, as far as Turkey's membership of the EU is concerned, the application, that is, there seems to be a mixed message coming out of Brussels. The EU foreign policy chief, Federica Mogherini, describes Turkey as a candidate country and a strategic partner. Yet the European Union neighborhood policy minister, Johannes Hahn, said accession negotiations with Turkey should cease. They should stop. What is the EU position on Turkish membership?
Well, it's exactly this. It's very unclear. The EU position is that clearly the EU member states, namely France, Germany, the main ones, want to keep Turkey into a partnership agreement and make sure that Turkey is both an economic and a strategic partner for the EU. As for the accession to a full member state status, I think this is off the table for the moment, as it was said before, because of human rights condition and also because of the willing from the Turkish authorities. So far, Turkey's got best of both deals. It got agreement with the EU on immigration. It got a lot of EU companies access to the market somehow, and yet the only point of negotiation will be to have visas and have the Turkish citizen able to move into Europe as other EU member state citizens. So it is a very blurred position from the EU, but that suits both Turkish and Europeans so far.
Metin Gurcan, Turkey recently detained more people in connection with those protests in 2013, the Gezi protests as they were known. President Erdogan, he's defending the arrests, but what does that do to Turkey's image and Turkey's application for membership of the EU?
Yeah, I mean, security concerns of Ankara, I think, is the issue that we should discuss. As you have said, and guests said, not only the tectonic plates in the field of Turkey's EU-centric geo-economic orientations, but also the field of, or tectonic plate of NATO-centric geostrategic orientations of Turkey is also moving. And these two trends these two tectonic plates reinforcing with one another. And particularly, you know, the Gezi protest and then the process after that, I mean, the Gezi protest in 2013, and then particularly the July 15, 2016 coup attempt was, they were two critical junctures that really, you know, made Ankara very concerned about security side of the story, and particularly Western partners turning their back to Ankara. At least Ankara has been pursuing, or you know, pursuing this issue like that. You know, create a big sort of trust deficit between Ankara and Western partners in the field of security.
When you say there's a big trust deficit, yet Turkey remains a member of NATO, a key member of NATO. So is there a bit of an anomaly in the fact that the West have these security concerns, yet at the same time is prepared to embrace Turkey's membership in NATO? Metin.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, right now Turkey is a key player here, you know, in NATO, and then also there are lots of missions that Turkey has been contributing, both in militarily and then also financially. But as I said before, particularly NATO's not providing full support after July 15 coup attempt, and also not particularly US, not being a sort of conciliatory or mediating between Turkey and the NATO partners, and this crack between threat perceptions, particularly threat perceptions of Ankara and NATO, has been getting wider and wider and getting visible. So both NATO and Ankara, at the moment, I would say, they seem to not to have an appetite to turn their faces to one another and to communicate properly to get through this trust deficit.
Right, Nicolai, if we look at Turkey's economy, just a few months ago, analysts at JP Morgan, the investment bank, said Turkey, and this was the report they produced on Turkey, they said that Turkey finds itself right now in the midst of a perfect storm of worsening financial conditions, shaky investor sentiment, poor management of the economy, and tariff threats from the United States. So given all those things that this bank is saying, what kind of reforms or changes would Turkey have to make to meet the conditions, say, for European membership?
Well, this is certainly an ongoing problem because Erdogan knows that he's sitting on a bit of a time bomb here. The lira is quite weak, and this has been due to also overlending in various sectors in Turkey that led to the devaluation of the lira. So before we had, for example, the US sanctions against Turkey, I think at the same time, Erdogan knows Turkey's geostrategic value. One of your guests just mentioned NATO, for example. I know from my own trips to Turkey and around the Gulf how important Turkey is seen by its NATO allies. It runs a series of centers in Turkey to train NATO members, and we also find them running conferences across the Gulf as well. So that Erdogan knows that he has military value and geostrategic value within his country. In terms of the economics, we do see a lot of nationalistic language. Erdogan is very proud of Turkey's Ottoman roots. At the same time, he does need to resolve the tumbling lira, and he's looking to other countries to gain more and more investment, especially to non-US actors, so for example, China.
Doga, what's your view on the reforms that will have to be undertaken in Turkey?
Well, there are several sets of reforms that need to be taken right away. First of all, if Turkey is serious about strengthening its relations with the West, and primarily with the European Union, Turkey has to initiate a set of reforms in political freedoms, ensuring that political influence on the judiciary is curtailed. And similarly, and very much in conjunction with that, Turkey also needs to initiate a set of reforms in the economy. There's obviously the problem of mismanagement, and it's always easier for the Ankara, obviously the government in Ankara, to accuse the foreign powers and whatnot for inducing fluctuation in Turkish economy, but it's rather the fragility of Turkish economy being susceptible to political interference that makes the Turkish economy so susceptible to any form of intervention. So for that matter, these two sets of reforms need to go hand in hand. The question is there an appetite for it at the moment? Obviously not. Yeah. And that by itself is really what creates that ambiguous relations with the European Union.
Right. Doga, we know that, you know, in negotiations, it's a two-way street. But it seems at this point that Europe is holding some of the big cards. And I'm wondering to what extent Turkey has any leverage over Europe in its negotiations. It did at one time have the immigration card. It stopped this mass exodus of immigrants from the Middle East into Europe, but that seems to have gone right now because Hungary and Slovenia have closed their borders.
We need to think of the migrant deal as a constructive move by Ankara to give a clear message to Brussels and other obviously important capitals, primarily Berlin, that Turkey, if willing, would always be a reliable partner with European Union. That's already been proven and did really save Turkey's partnership in this, say, billions of euros for European Union countries, and I think that's obviously recognized across European Union capitals. Secondly, Turkey also may prove as a reliable partner as the transatlantic divide between Washington and Brussels have become more obvious. Yeah. So Berlin is also looking a little bit warmer towards its relations with Russia, and Turkey, for that matter, could also play into a more of a trilateral role. Again, leveraging its presence, geostrategic and geoeconomic and political presence in that intersection of Eurasian landscape and Eastern Mediterranean to create some sort of a strategic partnership, not only with Russia, but also European Union. So that may as well be the path forward.
Alexis, would it be fair to say that the European Union and Turkey both need each other? Turkey has helped the European Union on the immigration issue. It also plays a key role in the fight against terrorism. On energy needs, there's talk about the pipelines going through Turkey. So they need each other.
Definitely, yes. Turkey needs the EU for its economic sake, and the EU needs Turkey also for the economy, but also for security reasons, for counter-terror intelligence, and also to man the border, because so far the EU hasn't been so much responsible and capable of doing so. So that's why I think the blur situation where the partnership is there, but we don't go into a real talk about getting into the membership is very good for Turkey and for Erdogan, because he doesn't have to move on the human rights front, and yet he gets the money from the EU, and the Turkey gets everything that not a membership, but the ability of working with EU partners is there. It's very clever from Erdogan, because if you see, Turkey is becoming a real international player in terms of geopolitical in the region, but also internationally, more than Europe, which can speak with one voice. Turkey has been very clear during the Syrian crisis, and now the deal is that Erdogan wants to be a diplomatic player, a sort of mediator between the Russian and the Ukrainian, for example, but also in the Syrian outcomes. So this is a deal where everybody is happy, but so far I think Erdogan is winning more of this deal than Europe.
Okay, we are going to take a break right now. Coming up, how will Turkey's economic turmoil play into its strengthening relationship with the rest of Europe? Stay with us, you're watching The Heat.